From the 15th chapter of John, Jesus is sharing the Last Supper with his disciples in the upper room. As the Father has loved me, so I love you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. If you are my friends, you are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. I am giving you these commands so that you may love one another. You are my best friend. Those simple words brought to conclusion the powerful and emotional classic movie, Driving Miss Daisy. They are spoken by Miss Daisy to her chauffeur, Hoke. Miss Daisy is an aging Southern aristocrat who, as the movie begins, is becoming a significant road hazard because of the deterioration of her driving skills. Her well-meaning son hires Hoke as a driver and demands that she stay out from behind the wheel. Miss Daisy is not about to take this step because of what she thinks it implies about her age and her competence. At first, she defiantly walks everywhere, with Hoke patiently driving alongside. But his persistence pays off, and soon she's in the back seat being chauffeur-driven. For as different as these two persons are, Miss Daisy and Hoke have a lot in common. The experience of discrimination. Miss Daisy is Jewish, Hoke is black. Their increasing age, and their memories of what once was. They maintain a pretense of servant-master relationship for the sake of those around them, but after years together, they become deeply devoted friends. When the movie closes, Miss Daisy is in a nursing home near the end of her life. Her son brings Hoke for a visit, and in his usual domineering style, he attempts to control the conversation and keep it on an innocuous level, far from what the two old friends really want to talk about. Finally, in quiet desperation, to renew their priceless friendship, Miss Daisy says to her son, "Enough. He came to see me, not to listen to you." And she turns to Hoke and says, "You are my best friend ever." One of the most publicly celebrated friendships in recent years was that of the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia. Both were born in the 1930s to immigrant parents. They grew up in ethnic neighborhoods in New York, Scalia in Queens, Ginsburg in Brooklyn. Ginsburg's parents were from Ukraine and Poland. Scalia's father was an Italian immigrant from Sicily. Their friendship was really born of working together, first on a court of appeals and then, of course, on the Supreme Court. They just plain enjoyed working together, wrote one of Scalia's sons. They had major differences, but they also bonded over a shared love of opera, good food and wine, and their childhoods in New York. True friendships are a rarity. That word friend, we give it many definitions. We have Facebook friends. We sometimes address widely intended correspondence as dear friends. But what I'm talking about today is a particular kind of friendship. In fact, true friendship may even be less common than true love, and maybe that's as it should be. We're called to love all people, whether we like them or not. But friendship happens when a different kind of bond develops, not apart from love, but in some ways even deeper than love. I think we understand that true friendship is very, very rare. We long for friendships, but rarely find them, and maybe that's why the Ginsburg-Scalia friendship got so much attention. Maybe we have a sense of what a true friendship really is, and occasionally we recognize it in others, but we rarely experience it ourselves. Jesus sat with his disciples in the upper room. He knew the final act of his earthly life was about to be played out. His death on the cross was imminent. He talked at length with the disciples about how he and God are one. And then Jesus the Christ, God himself become human, called them friends. Here we have 12 ordinary men, fishermen and the like, not particularly righteous people, being called friends by none other than the man who was the Son of God. This is what he was saying to them. I'm not going to call you servants any longer. You've been with me 3 years now. You've seen me bring healing to many apparently without hope. You've begun to recognize the authority given to me is not from any human source. Maybe you've even sensed that when you are with me, you are in the presence of God. You know I am more than just prophet and teacher. You have addressed me as master, and rightfully so. But now, the wall between master and servant is being torn down. The veil in the temple that separates God from God's people is coming down. I'm not going to call you servants any longer. I'm going to call you friends. And so, my friends, he went on, remember this. No one has greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. I lay down my life for you, and you must be willing to do the same. The disciples and Jesus began their life together in what was clearly a servant-master relationship. They often addressed him as master, and Jesus never indicated it should be any other way. But now Jesus announced that the relationship was changing. But we note that Jesus didn't withdraw the command to love one another. Did that mean that although he was now friend, he was still master? Antonin Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg didn't really have to deal with the master-servant dynamic. They were pretty much on a par when it came to authority and influence, although Ginsburg did frequently write of gender bias she had experienced. The fact that they were more or less equals doesn't by any means diminish the depth or perhaps the difficulty of their friendship, and they certainly had their deep differences, but they let their common interests and commitments rise above the differences. The other friendship, that of Miss Daisy and Hoke, that began in what was clearly a master-servant relationship. And even though they were pressured by those around them to stay in that relationship, they managed to leave it behind and to find true friendship. But Jesus tells us that he is both master and friend. I think Jesus appeals to our deepest, most profound understanding of friendship to set forth what he expects of us in our relationship with him. Jesus is still master. Even as he begins to call us friends, he gives us a command as well. How is the apparent paradox of master and friend resolved? It's resolved through the recognition that there is no greater love than to give one's life for one's friend. Jesus' standard is that the one who gives a command that others must demonstrate love, that master must personally demonstrate the same love, even to the point of laying down one's life for one's friend. The master who is willing to do what is expected of the followers is the true master and friend. 3 friendships. It would appear, at least from a distance, that Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia had a friendship opportunity just kind of dropped in front of them when they ended up on the appeals court. And unlikely though it seemed, they took advantage of it to what became their great joy. I hope I haven't missed any opportunities that may have been dropped before me. Hope caught a glimpse of an unlikely friendship, and he pursued it, not only to his great joy, but to Miss Daisy's as well. And I hope I haven't missed that kind of opportunity either. I know that Jesus is my master, but through his love for me, through his sacrifice for me, he has also shown me that he is my friend, and that's awesome. For a number of years, I had a great privilege of working closely with a man who introduced himself as an Arab, Palestinian, Christian citizen of Israel. Archbishop Emeritus Elias Shakur established a group of schools to bring together Christians, Jews, Arabs, and Druze. The high school is among the leading academic institutions in all of Israel. He's an incredible man, and I've heard him speak many times. He speaks about the challenges of being Palestinian in Israel, and he invites his listeners to become friends of the Palestinians. But, he says, don't be our friends if you think that means being enemies of the Jews. The last thing we need is one more enemy of the Jews, or one more enemy of the Palestinians. The Jews need friends, the Palestinian needs friends. No one needs one more enemy. Our world needs friendships. Above all, we need the friendship of a master who calls on us to lay down our lives for our friends, a master who does the same thing for us. So we strive for that kind of friendship with our master. But on the way, maybe we can nurture what otherwise might seem like an unlikely friendship, or maybe even just try having a good time with someone who disagrees.